so then how do we,
Yeah, that's what
how do
it's
we answer that with, you know, taking it to a higher level or a depth, a deeper
You
level?
write an assessment question that's at a higher level.
Right.
And then you say, well, the purpose of why we did that was because we want them to be able to go beyond identifying specific pieces of information. Because when we consider all of these content expectations in context, it's more about being able to really go into detail about the challenges that were faced and the analysis of how the Constitution was developed the way that it was.
And
I mean, did the framers just wake up one day and, you know, say, this is how we're gonna deal with the issue of slavery, I got it all figured out, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I think, and you have to talk about U331 plus, U332 plus, U333 plus, U334 plus, U335 plus, U336 to get to that bigger question, which is the standard.
And I think too, in your dialogue, you would probably end up with the question with which the student would have to demonstrate that they could identify what's being asked to be identified is naturally going to force them to do bigger, deeper thinking. Hopefully I didn't shortchange your thought. So did you think, I think I heard a lot of the both or the combination aspect. And again, it's going to be based on, for the intent of this group, either or one of each is suffice. But when you think of that missed thing, so you don't leave here with just this very narrow view of what this is about, you see in that larger purpose, it could be determined by maybe what your blueprint looks like. And that could make a determination of it as well. So I think there is a bigger thing to consider. But again, for this, we are asking you just to specifically create those different items as they are. So this was what the brainstorming was at Ottawa. And so again, where this isn't going to give you an end result of what the questions are that are generated from it, it at least gives the thinking and insight that they came to as a group. I don't know if it was groups of twos or threes, but in their group or more. But in their group, they made this determination and for that reason. And so if I read that, I see a lot of where Becky's getting at with there are other things to take into consideration, but they obviously came to some kind of a way that they thought they could see generating a question, which then led them to what the question might look like in order to assess that standard, if you will.
So when where it says DOK level 2, students are asked to pick one, I'm assuming that's a selected response.
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe a constructed response on that last part.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
It says to pick one correct answer, but there are multiple correct answers.
Uh-huh.
Is that a skill then that the teacher hopefully would have taught the kids, that it's not always just A?
Yes.
I mean, that could be A and C?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And this kind of leads into, you know, if I could be so bold as to suggest a piece of advice, that is, you know, because I was working with the high school teachers, and it quickly turned into, you know, we would take a look at one of the content expectations, and it quickly would turn into this debate of, well, you've got to spend time on insert content. Yes, but more importantly, you have to compare insert content to insert content, right? So there were these really intense discussions about what came forward as the really important pieces of the content. But then, after we took care of those who needed stitches, it got to, all right, you guys have done this beautiful job of really fleshing out where you need to go, where you want to go with that content. But now I want you to go into the C3, and I want you to look at all of those skills. Because if you're just going to write around those content expectations, you're going to find yourself getting stuck again and again and again at a DOK 1 or a DOK 2. So my advice to them was, all right, now that we've fleshed out the content, we've got some pretty, highly cognitive topics and content discussions and debates going on. Now, let's apply some of those skills where we can ask the kids on the test, on the assessment, to do the same kind of thing. And a lot of those skills, when you really spend time with the C3, you're probably going to say what they said. Well, minus the expletives. Our kids haven't had practice at any level with these skills. So, holy cannelloni, what are we going to do, to get our kids there? Which leads into a different conversation across grade spans for, where those get built. But they had to go to the skills part of the C3 to help, again, flesh out how they wanted to write those questions.
That's interesting because in a lot of ways that's where we started this morning, really.
Yep.
Based on.
Okay, the C3, are districts being very intentional about implementing the C3 right now? You see, or what advice would you give to try to get a district to see the importance of C3?
Well, I guess I have to confess that maybe because my name's Rebecca, I'm living on Sunnybrook Farm. Our folks in Ottawa County are embracing it because it's what they've been looking for all along. We've always known what the content is going to be, and now here's the teeth, here's the rigor. And if we want to prepare our kids for critical thinking and rigor, whether it's social studies or science or ELA or math or music or art, there are some skills that have to be consistent. And so here's where that consistency comes in. It's just that ours are specific to social studies, just like there are some in science that are specific to science. I kind of, always draw the analogy to physician. And while a physician may specialize, his or her intent is to be a part of keeping the whole individual healthy. So that's how they view those skills.
Right. And we've exposed the curriculum folks, but I'm not openly doing professional development around here's what they are, but different districts I've gone out and supported. Here are the C3 standards, here's what they're about, here's big picture, so we could work that way around it. The superintendents and the curriculum people are aware of it, but I have not been as actively offering PD just around it. So I haven't been doing that outside of this and using it and as alongside.